Epiphany tribe. It's your girl. So, with me today, I have Bob Wheatley, a USA Today bestselling author, keynote speaker, and former professional athlete. He has a passion for helping single Christians find purpose and strength in their season of singleness and helping them to connect with Jesus like never before. And he lives in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's for everybody who didn't already know who he was. Because I know some of my listeners know who you are. But yeah, let's get this started. Let's start off with a simple question. Why did you write the book Single Minded?
Well, first of all, just thank you so much for having me on the show. I know you and I have been in touch for months, years on this subject, so it's nice
Yes.
to officially sit down and have a recording. And like I said, I know we've been talking about it for a bit, so we're here. I'm just so grateful that you'll have me. And to answer your question, why did I write the book?
Hmm.
It's funny. I actually started and stopped the writing of this book a handful of years ago. And so
Really?
we had been doing a podcast with my good friend Kelly Corday with KCBI Radio. It's called That Single Show. We had interviewed a bunch of Christian thought leaders on the subject. And so I had started to write a book as an unmarried Christian man.
Hmm.
And I've always wanted to be a husband. I've always wanted to be a father. And just at that point in my life, that had not happened. So I thought, well, I'm doing a lot of research, I'm doing a lot of interviews. Let's turn it into a book.
Hmm.
And I completely lost steam.
Oh no.
Crazy. Yeah, I wrote probably 80,000 words, which was
Mhm.
like 340 pages. Like it was a book. The book was done, and I just completely lost the juice. It felt like it
Wow.
was something that maybe like at the tail end of it was like, did I do this in my flesh? Does this just sound like a good idea in my mind and not something that God wants me to do? So I
Hmm.
put it on the shelf and I basically just chalked it up to a learning experience. Said, all right, that's that one book that I wrote that nobody will ever read. And I got some really good writing practice.
Yeah.
And there was probably a year, maybe a year and a half, where I didn't even think about it.
Mm.
And then it was just last September, I should say, as of this recording, September of 24,
Okay.
that the juice was back. It was like there was this new wind in my sails, and I sort of reimagined the book. Obviously, you've read it. It's a 30-day challenge. So the
Hmm.
chapters are meant to be very short, a daily read, 5, 10 minutes in the morning, super easy. And the first book was a lot deeper. It was
Hmm.
significantly longer. So at any rate, why did I write the book? I wrote the book because number one, I am in that season of singleness. Like I said, I've always wanted to be married and just hasn't been written into my story just yet.
Hmm.
So it is a growing demographic in the church today. There are so many believers that love the Lord, yes, but they're still unmarried, despite that being a desire of
Hmm.
theirs. And so I found myself not really in something that I chose. Like I never set out to be a voice to encourage the unmarried Christian, but I am one. And like we're called to serve. That's Mark 10:45. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give
Hmm.
his life a ransom for many. So I just found myself in that, I'm in my mid 30s now, unmarried, and I feel like I had something to say. And it
Hmm.
wasn't from a place of, hey, I am now in the happily ever after. I'm already married. I have a wife. I have kids. My life is awesome. And here's what I wish I knew. It's like, no, I'm 34 years old.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to be a husband, and I am not one today.
Hmm.
And so I am dealing with the same questions, doubts, loneliness that you might be dealing with as a reader. That is why I wanted to write the book. I wanted to capture the rawness, the emotions of it, not
Hmm.
sort of write something in the rearview mirror. So
Yeah.
I know we're going to go in more detail as far as the content, but yeah, that is why I wrote the book. I feel like it's just so needed and the time is now.
Hmm. Uh, okay, so I'm so excited to have this conversation because as soon as I started reading it, well, I actually started listening to the audio first, and then I got the book, and then started audio and reading at the same time. Um, but as soon as I jumped in, I was like, yes, finally, a man saying these things that I feel like a lot of us single women say, but we don't hear the flip side of the coin, as often. And so to me, the like listening to the perspective of you and like wherever else this actually came from, whether it was pulled from other, single men or not, was just, I just had to sit there and go, wow, they actually feel the same way that we do. And because there's a lot of like obviously nuances in the church, and then just being single now and still in your mid 30s and or later, um and how that there's just, it comes down to like what's wrong with you or what are you doing wrong, right? Which obviously is not the whole point. um but yeah, I guess my question in there um would be, like, now that you finished the book, is there anything that you would kind of say to you who, when you were writing it, like back a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, really, my intent for writing the book and the things that I wish I knew, maybe even before I wrote the book, because
Mm-hmm.
again, I was writing for the person that I once was. So I was
Mm.
talking to that past version of myself. Like the book that you have in your hands, that is what I would say to a past version of
Okay.
myself, because I've done the study, I've done the reading. Also, I've just lived more life. It's like the school of hard knocks type thing. But
Mm-hmm.
my hope for this book is that it can change the conversation around singleness in the American church.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, as you know, the first chapter of the book, I talk about the Pauline advantage. And here's the
Yes.
Apostle Paul. He's writing in 1 Corinthians 7, and he says some really radical things to
Mm-hmm.
the single Christian. He's saying, this is my paraphrase of his words, but he's like, hey guys, if you are single, I actually wish you could remain single on account of the spiritual blessings.
Mm-hmm.
If you are single, you can have a wholehearted devotion to the Lord. You are unencumbered. You can be completely focused and available on for him, for his purposes,
Mm-hmm.
versus the married man, the married woman, their interests are divided. So here's the Apostle Paul saying something that is just so radically different from what we believe and what we teach in churches today. The American psyche around singleness is, if you could see me, as you're listening to this, if you could see me on camera,
Mm-hmm.
the thought around marriage is this. It's like a 10 out of 10, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Singleness is this. It's like a 5 out of 10. There's like a clear gap where marriage is the upgrade, marriage is the next level, marriage is better.
Mm-hmm.
And biblically speaking, that is just not true. That is a falsehood. That is a lie. Where marriage is not better, it's not a 10 out of 10 and singleness is a 5 out of 10. They're both equally awesome in different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
my hope is that this book can change, number one, the heart of the reader, who's probably an unmarried Christian that is feeling it. They
Yeah.
feel alone. They feel overlooked. They feel discouraged. They feel behind on life. They might be
Mm-hmm.
34 years old. Like, when is it going to happen? If ever.
Right.
Did I miss the boat? So I first hope that it changes their thoughts around
Mm-hmm.
singleness to where they can truly see the blessing of it. That doesn't mean you have to be single forever. That doesn't mean you have to put on a smile and say, this feels good all the time. It's like, we're human beings. You can have emotions. But I feel like the nuggets of truth in Paul's letter, 1 Corinthians 7,
Mm-hmm.
is not oftentimes talked about today. We kind of like put our arm around the single Christian. Oh, I feel so bad for you. Like you are the object of my pity. This can be lonely. It can be difficult. But what we definitely don't do is say, "Wow, you're single? That's awesome. That's incredible. Like you have so much more time, availability. You can have exactly what Paul said in his letter to the Corinthians. You
Mm-hmm.
can have that undivided devotion to the Lord. Okay, so you're single. What is God doing in you right now? How is he changing your character? What is God trying to do through you, through
Mm-hmm.
your ministry or your future plans? You, as a single person, can discover those things versus somebody who's married. Let's say you are married, you have the husband, wife, you have the car full of kids. You have to worry about packing lunches.
Mm.
You have to worry about soccer practice. And all
Mm-hmm.
of those things are good, but again, my intent for this book is to change, maybe provide some new thoughts elevated thoughts in the heart of the single Christian, but also the church as a whole, to
Mm,
start seeing singleness in the same way that Paul did. Because if 50% of Americans on average are unmarried, there's a lot of us, guys. There's a lot of unmarried Christians. So if the past thinking is the half of the church that is married, they're the ones that are happy and they're living life at a 10 out of 10 level,
hmm
versus the 50% of those in the church that are single are really struggling. We should really pity them. It's like that is not a biblical statement.
mm-mm,
It's just not. You, as a single person, have a distinct advantage spiritually. So much so that the Apostle Paul would say, I wish if you have the gift, you would actually remain single.
hmm
Now, I do want to be crystal clear, and I say this anytime I'm on a podcast or speaking on stage, whatever it might be. I personally want to be married. I
Right.
still do. That's always been a desire. That's a desire of mine today. So what I don't want to leave an audience with the thought of like, oh, the Apostle Paul said, I wish you could remain single, so that's the path. Not at all. You can still have the desire to be married and crush it as a single person.
hmm
You might be married this time next year, 12 months from now. Crazier things have happened. But
Yeah.
if you woke up single today, you do have that Pauline advantage. That's the
hmm
idea.
I love that. It actually made me think of a conversation I had earlier this week with a potential guest, and she was telling me her testimony and how she and her husband actually got married within 30 days. And I was like, hold up, I need a minute, 30 days. And so she said, yeah. And so she went through their whole testimony, which I won't like share here, but it was wild to just see how God was like weaving their things together. And they've been together 10 years now. And I'm like, whoa, okay, well, something's working. I guess you guys are making it work and putting in the effort to actually have a relationship. Because I think we as singles kind of have sometimes that grass is greener, right? Mentality where we think, oh, only if I'm married will I feel happy, will I feel complete, and all of that. Um, but I don't remember which day it is in the book that you kind of touch on that subject, though the like I don't think you use the word complete, but the concept of if I get married, then I have blah blah blah. Um, so yeah, like the question in there would be, how would you say to somebody like a friend of yours is that's single too, how would you kind of like approach that subject of other than I guess the Pauline advantage?
Yeah.
Like how would you approach that subject with that friend and be like, but all of this stuff that we can do, for the kingdom.
Yeah, totally. So in one of the days of the 30-day challenge, I kind of tell a parable. I call it the tale of two horses.
Yes.
So in the tale of two horses, and this I have a day job. I work in sales. I help authors with their books and speakers with their speeches, podcasters with their podcasts. Like I have a day job helping people in a coaching capacity.
hmm
And so I work with a lot of people in the self-help space. So sort of like the rah rah motivational speaker type. Those
uh,
are our typical clients because they're the thought leaders, they're out in front of people. And so a very common story, a common parable in that world, I call it the tale of two horses. And it goes something like this, where you have a farmer takes his horse to the fair,
hmm
and then that horse proceeds to set the record for the amount of weight towed at the fair. Pulls 8,000 pounds. Like, wow, this horse is so strong. Then somebody gets the good idea of, oh, I wonder what would happen if you yoked two horses together. Maybe 8,000 pounds plus 8,000 pounds equals, could it be 16,000 pounds?
hmm
Wouldn't you know it? Once they yoke them together, it's not 16,000, it's 24,000. It's like, whoa, this is the power of teamwork. You kind of see the multiplier. So
hmm
that's why the motivational speaker loves it, because if they're speaking to thousands of people at a big company or something, he's saying you guys need to work as a team. Or you could almost envision the football team before the Super Bowl. It's like we need to pull together. Meanwhile, if you're a single Christian and you are praying this morning, God, where's my partner? that story can ring so hollow because you're like, yeah, that's good math. I'm towing 8,000 pounds right now, exhausted. Meanwhile, God, if you would just answer my prayer finally and bring me a partner, we could tow 24,000 pounds together.
Mhm.
God, what are we doing? So, bringing it back to the tale of two horses, what I present in the book is the question being, is it helpful? Is it beneficial for horses to be yoked together?
Mm.
And so at your first read, you might think, oh, well, duh, obviously, you have a triple multiplier with that. But then I go on to ask, what happens if that same farmer
Mhm.
takes his horse from the fair, goes across the street to a horse race? What happens if he enlists him in the Kentucky Derby?
Mhm.
I ask you again, is it helpful? Is it beneficial for horses to be yoked together? I've watched dozens of horse races in my life. I have never seen two horses yoked together.
Right.
Not in a race, because if you were to do that, it would slow you down. The faster
Mhm.
horse would literally be pulling the slower one. Come on, slowpoke. He'd be pulling him along every time.
Mhm.
So being yoked to a partner does not help you if your goal is to run fast. So the encouragement that I would say to the unmarried Christian is don't worry about pulling something heavy right now. A lot of people kind of get tunnel vision and they see, oh man, if I was married, I'd be able to pull 24,000 pounds. My response is, my friend, God might be asking you to run fast.
Mhm.
You might be in your own respective Kentucky Derby right now.
Mhm.
So is it good for not even horses? Is it good for humans to be
Mhm.
yoked together?
Yeah.
The real answer is it depends. It depends on the task before you.
Mhm.
So that does not at all take away from the difficulties of singleness. I think about Proverbs 13:12. Hope deferred makes the heart
Mm.
sick.
Mhm.
Hope deferred makes the heart sick. You might be waking up today or listening to this podcast and you might be heart sick because you have your hope set on this good thing that is marriage.
Mhm.
That's a very human thing. So I don't want to say like, hey, congratulations, you're a racehorse, not a plow horse. It doesn't take away from that, but hopefully it does provide some encouragement or a mindset shift saying, huh, maybe the Apostle Paul isn't crazy. Maybe
Mm.
there are some definitively good things in my singleness. That doesn't mean I'll be single for the next 80 years,
Right.
but I'm single today. Am I doing the best that I can to be faithful in this season?
Mm. That's good. That's really good. So I was talking to some married friends recently because I went to 5 different weddings last year. It's a lot of weddings, a lot of weddings. But and then 3 of my cousins got married too, so 8 total. It was insane. Uh but I've been talking to some of my single friends who were single for an extended period of time, and now they're in that adjustment of we're married. Now we have to figure out what this looks like. How do we function with a husband? And and all of that. And they each of them in their own way have said, enjoy this time, that you're still single. And then of course they follow up with, don't get me wrong, I love my husband and I'm so happy married. But they're in that transition of realizing they can't do the same things that they were doing. They have to actually pay attention to the thoughts and feelings of somebody else. And, it can't be so selfish all the time. Can't pack up and go on a girls' weekend or, hang out with the boys. Um, so anyway, I guess I don't know if I have a question in there. I think I was just like kind of saying, yeah, I've had those kind of conversations recently too. And um it's just interesting to get that perspective from those friends of mine.
Well, it's so true. And I have friends in the very same period of life where they're getting married. They now have young kids. That's even a multiplier because
Right.
now it's not just you have to worry about your wife's calendar. You're also worried about diapers and feeding times and all that stuff. So what they have shared with me, like I specifically have a Bible study of men. We've
Mhm.
been together for 6, 7 years at this point, maybe 5 of us. And we all started as single guys, just growing in the Lord together. Now, a lot of them are married, some of them are having kids, and they have 100% affirmed what the Apostle Paul is saying, where the married man, his interests are divided. Because now, if
Mm-hmm.
you add a wife, if you add a child, it is not just you. So, for them to get in prayer time or to
Mm-hmm.
read the word, I mean, that some of them are getting up at 3:30 in the morning just to find time to do that. And that is simply because they have it's the truly a blessing that is marriage, but your life is more complicated. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I am not saying that, oh, you need to stay single forever because Paul was, and that's the only Christian path. Not at all. There are a ton of things that you can learn in marriage that you can't learn as a single person. Again,
Mm-hmm.
my goal in writing this book is to elevate singleness to be on par with marriage. Marriage, 10 out of 10. Singleness, 10 out of 10. Completely different, but both blessings. They're just different seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that I know a lot of singles that I've spoken to have a, to use the buzzword church hurt related to, their season right now and feeling like they are put in are pigeonholed and put into different like ministries or something because, they're single. They don't have to like worry about the same things. And then in flip side of that, like when they're not focused on the blessing of that, um, being able to minister to different people in different ways than their, married friends and family, it can be like it can be adding on to the pile, of like all of the emotions and the feelings and the within that can really cause a struggle with the ministry. So I guess like how I don't know if you've ever been put in that position as far as, being placed in ministry just because you're single. But if you were, how would you like kind of manage that and the everything that came along with that?
Are you saying because you are single, somebody
Yeah.
on the outside can look at you and say, "Oh, you are now voluntold.
Yes.
We
Yes.
need you to run
Voluntold.
parking lot duty," or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that before. So, how would I approach that if that happened to me?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, number one, I think it's always the flesh versus the spirit. Our flesh
Mm,
wants to be selfish. Our spirit wants to be, our spirit is literally God living in us.
right.
So I think my flesh would say, no, forget that. I don't want to do parking lot duty. I got stuff that I have to do. The
Mm,
spirit would be, if it's God living in me, it is what do other people need? I'd also say, and again, I'm sort of going off the cuff here. I think there's such a thing as in making yourself so available and having the perpetual yes, like it says in the word that we are to be innocent as doves, but wise as serpents.
hmm.
So if you are just this spiritual pinata or you're like the rag doll that you're always yes, people just use you all the time, then there might be a place where you could rise up a little bit. And I don't like the word boundaries because sometimes people can just like, I have boundaries. Like it feels like a very academic or honestly, it feels like a cop out to not serve people or to not put others before you. Like I have boundaries. I can't possibly do this. I'm living as an adult.
Mm,
There's a place for that, but yeah, I think generally speaking, the disposition of the Christian should be others first. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. That is
mhm,
God's disposition. That was Jesus' disposition on earth. That should be our heart as well. Service first. But I do think there is also a place for if we're called to be wise as serpents and be discerning, like it's a classic line, no is a complete sentence as well.
yes.
I would just, here's my very short answer.
Okay.
Pray. Pray about it.
Mm,
Spend some time in prayer about
mhm.
whatever the request is. And then, I trust your judgment as a Bible reading believer. You're going to be fine. That would be my very brief response to that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't even know where that question came from, but I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ask this. Um, okay, so I want to talk about day 26, your appearance.
Okay.
Um, so being a Californian myself, born and raised in SoCal also, I started reading this day and automatically just had like a mic drop moment. I was like, yes, now I have to keep reading. Um, because a lot of people here that I'm, was born and raised in California, and they automatically have all of these stereotypes and things that come along with that, and then they get to know me and they realize, oh, you're not a Californian. I'm like, what does that mean? First of all, but thank you. And so anyway, when I read this day, I immediately, after getting to the questions part, I stopped. I got up, walked out to my roommate and said, listen to this, and then proceeded to read her the whole day again. And her response was, wow, when are you getting him on the podcast? And so I was like, well, soon, hopefully. And now we're here. But the things that stuck out to me, obviously, the whole day was amazing, but there was, what was it? Okay, for some of us, the strongest influence in our life is not a friend, not a mirror, or sorry, not a mentor, not a Bible, but a mirror. So when I read that, I had to stop and just like take a second, because like a lot of us, we compare, like we do the whole comparison thing, especially with social media and like all of that. And so I had to sit there and rest in what that meant for me, as a single woman, to realize that I was comparing myself to all these different things instead of comparing myself to what God says about me, right? And then my mirror should be the Bible. It shouldn't be everything outside. So that was part one of that day that really like stuck out to me. And I kind of just wanted to like ask, like, where did that thought even come from?
Yeah, the day as a whole.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like you grew up in California,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of amazing things, a lot of amazing people in California,
Yes.
but there's a reason why stereotypes exist. One of the
Mm-hmm.
stereotypes about a Californian, and maybe even a Southern Californian, which is where I grew up, is superficial. It's
Mm-hmm.
people with, plastic surgeries and nice cars and beautiful people, but shallow hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was reading the Bible, continuously just digging into the word and seeing things that didn't align with that, I'm not saying that, doing your hair or brushing your teeth is ungodly, not at all. But the way I put it in that day is true beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. True beauty is in the eye of the creator. God
Mm-hmm.
is a completely a different definition of beauty. And it doesn't have to do with what your makeup looks like or what color your hair is or if you brushed your hair today. God's definition of beauty, like I go to what Peter says in his first epistle, First Peter. He's talking specifically to women, but it's applicable to men as well. He says, "Do not let your adornment be the outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles or the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, let it be the inner beauty, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight." So here's Peter saying, if you're super concerned about your elaborate hairstyle, your gold jewelry, your fine clothes, and you're forgetting about the inner you, the unfading beauty, you're missing it.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing it. And you said you went to 8 weddings last year. I'm
Yeah.
sure the bride looked amazing. Her hairstyle probably was elaborate. There's like Peter is not saying thou shall not dress nice. What he's saying is your beauty is not what you can see with your eyes. Your beauty is what is on the inside of you. And if you remember, that's kind of how I wrap up the chapter as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like in a sense, the easiest way to see someone's beauty is not looking at them face to face, not stalking them on social media like, oh, she's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. It's actually a lot easier to discover someone's beauty by a phone call because then
Yeah.
you're not distracted by how she looks. You're not distracted by how he looks. You're
Mm-hmm.
discovering who they are. So
Yeah.
that is how God defines beauty. And so I wanted to put something in the book. Again, the book is broken down into 30 days. So each
Mm-hmm.
day has a specific topic. It might be your friends, your family, your work, your sexuality, your food. There's a bunch of different things, but I did want to talk about your appearance because that is just such a big part of the American culture today, the church culture today.
Mm-hmm.
And God's thoughts on it are completely different from the California stereotype.
Yep. That is so true. Um, I feel like there's like a lots of thoughts in there, but I'll just kind of ask this next question. Uh, so you have a line in there too. The bait with which you catch the man is what the man will crave. And so thank you for writing that. Because it's again, it was really good to like get a man's perspective on that, because we can hear like that kind of thing, oh, dress modestly or dress a certain way and insert purity culture vernacular here, right? um but within that, it was just kind of this moment of going, oh yeah, again, it's not about what I'm doing outwardly. It should be about my character and how God has created me to be. um that's what I should be, focusing on, and then whoever God has for me will match up with that and align with that. So just I'm just going to say thank you for writing that line because it was very helpful for me to sit and process through that and what that looks like for me as a single lady.
If what you are putting out there, I'm thinking specifically about social media,
Yeah.
there's a lot of skin, a lot of lewdness, it's Cabo, it's all that stuff, then you are setting him up. Let's say you marry that guy.
Mm-hmm.
If he is marrying you because of the Cabo pictures, it's like the bait with which you catch the man is what the man will crave. Why is he marrying you? Why is he interested in you?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are doing the opposite, and that's not to say you have to wear cardboard boxes and, nobody can see anything but your eyes. But if you're doing the opposite and you do dress modestly and you allow him to see the inner beauty, the unfitting beauty that you are, again, that is the bait with which you've caught him.
Mm-hmm.
So he is marrying that woman for the fruits of the spirit and the wife that he believes she will be, maybe the mother that he believes that she will be. So the question is, as a woman, what kind of bait are you putting out there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that men can't change. You go from boys to men. There's a lot
Right.
of boys. There's a lot of grown boys that
Ugh.
need to be taught how to become men. But
Mm-hmm.
just know, like as a man, I'm speaking generally for us, just knowing our how we are wired, also our sinful flesh, like our nature as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're leading with a bunch of skin, a bunch of Cabo, it's like that very easily can distract us from the true beauty that you are. So
Mm.
that's why I wrote that. The bait with which you catch the man is what the man will crave. And again, hopefully, like you as the female reader, I talk to men in that chapter as well. I think
Yeah.
it'd be very easy for a male writer to say, ladies, let's button it up. We need to wear loose fit clothing and thou shall not tempt your brother. And I had a number of female editors, number of
Mm.
friends that read it and just said, "Hey guys, did I am I off on this? Or if you as the female reader, are you offended by this? Because it'd be very easy for me as the guy to sort of cast blame and say, ladies, you got to dress more modestly because you're tempting us. That's
Mm-hmm.
not fair. It is on us as men to like Job said, I've made a covenant with my eyes. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
on us. So, but I wanted hopefully I kind of thread that needle and treated the female reader well, while also saying like this is giving you some insight into the male psyche. Like
Hmm.
give us holy bait. And then that's what we'll crave in you. That's what we'll want for decades to come in marriage, not the stuff that you see in Cabo.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I can say, as a reader, yes, you threaded the needle very well. Which is partly why I got up and went and read it to my roommate. And she just, like I said, she just said, wow. And then she's like, I want to sit and think about that for a while longer. And I'm like, I know. Because here's this man saying these things that is, again, coming from a slightly different perspective than what a lot of us have been fed over the years about, you know, again, purity culture, like all of that. And so it was refreshing to read. And I didn't feel, I was just excited. I'm like, okay, I need to talk about this day because yeah, again, like growing up in Southern California, that's what you see. You just, it's skin everywhere. But then we also have Hollywood. There's so much that is thrown into our culture as Southern Californians. And yeah, I'll just leave that at that. Everybody read day 26. That's all you need to know. Okay, so another question. What are what are some of the greatest challenges that you face as a single person?
Yeah, it's a great question. First thing that comes to mind is loneliness.
Mm,
That's something that I deal with regularly, consistently,
mm-hmm.
like on a weekly basis. That doesn't just go away because I wrote a book about singleness. Like the loneliness is still there. And so I
Yeah.
find encouragement in the fact I think about God speaking in the Garden of Adam. It's not good for the man to be alone.
Mm,
And this was an Adam who had a job, so he had a purpose. He also was, I mean, it says that God walked with him in the cool of the day. So I like to envision an embodied God, like a Jesus pre virgin birth.
mm-hmm.
He had company, but he didn't have a woman. He didn't have somebody that he was living with. He had all the animals, he had a job, he was literally living in paradise in Eden, and yet God said it's not good for the man to be alone. So one of the biggest challenges that I face is the loneliness. I feel like both the Apostle Paul and even Jesus say that singleness is a gift, like a spiritual gift, as in some people have it and some people don't. And if you remember, I have an entire day in the book talking about celibacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not from the sense of not having sex. Celibacy as in the spiritual gift of singleness, where there are people walking the earth today who have said, you know what, I'm going to be single forever and I like it and I enjoy it. I actually share a story with the reader about a friend of mine who is living that life. It seems totally foreign, totally alien to anything that I've ever felt, but those people are out there. So, a challenge that I feel as somebody who doesn't have that spiritual gift of
Mm-hmm.
singleness, spiritual gift of celibacy, is loneliness. And
Yeah.
so, what I have been forced to do through the years of being unmarried is you got to do something with that loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
For some, that's where the vices come out. It's sex, drugs, rock and roll. For
Mm-hmm.
me, at least to the best of my ability, I've tried to invite God into that loneliness. And, let's say it's a Friday night. Once again, you don't have a date, you don't have plans, and you're at home. What do you do with that loneliness? It's like you can either try to medicate it somehow with movies and ice cream or whatever, or, I mean, honestly, what it's looked like for me is just a lot of prayer. Just
Mm-hmm.
And he already knows. He knows he has the number of hairs in my head counted. He knows I feel lonely. But
Right.
to share that with him, it's almost like using it as a means to grow closer to him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody would ever choose loneliness, but if that's a part of your life, if that's a challenge that you're facing, it can bring you closer to God.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the advantages and the disadvantages, so to say.
Yeah. I think for me, the way that I mean, obviously, on top of growing closer to God, the way that I've dealt with the loneliness is to build my community. Um, and I have a ton of single friends all over the country. And one of the things that I've been blessed and able to do is to travel and see them and spend time with them, you know, doing different meetups all across the country. And it's beautiful to sit there and be living in answered prayer because I had prayed for community very uh very aggressively because I was so lonely and just tired of feeling that way. And so the prayer became like, if I'm not gonna have my husband right now, Lord, where's my people? Like, where am I gonna find like you among the church? And so yeah, I've just been very blessed to be able to grow in that way and to be able to have beautiful, amazing, God-centered conversations with other singles who are, obviously varying ages, but we're still in the same boat. And to be able to um sit and like cry together, pray together, and do all of those things that you would want to do with your spouse, right? But you can kind of have like that connection with um other singles is just it's amazing and I love it. And the last question, what could the single community do better as far as the church is concerned? Like how can we function within the church better as a single community?
Yeah, I'd say it's a part of that shift of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
A single Christian is not the odd man out. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be unleashed. This is a
Mm,
spiritual blessing. This is a divinely appointed season. If the Apostle Paul had his way, we'd all remain single.
yeah.
So that means that you can look upon the single Christian with empathy, with sympathy. If it's hope deferred makes the heart sick, they might be living in a heart sick season.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they need to be greatly encouraged. They need to be unleashed. So if we're shifting the narrative in the church today, and like as we're recording this, we just got out of the holidays. I don't know if
Right.
this was the experience with you. It was certainly the experience with me and probably millions of others here in this country. Over the
Mm-hmm.
holidays, you probably saw mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and somebody made a comment about
Yep.
where is your husband? Where is your wife?
Uh-huh.
When are you going to give me grandkids? And
Mm.
it's just sort of like a poke in the ribs. It's done out of love. But what they're
Right.
really saying is marriage is a 10 out of 10 and you're single.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the waiting season. You're in the lesser season. And again, that is not a biblical statement. So your question was, what can we do in the church? My hope is that the single Christian and also those who are around the singles community can really encourage them to crush it in this season, come at it from a different perspective, asking better questions. What is God
Mm-hmm.
trying to do in me? What does God want to do through me as far as good works prepared in advance for me? The Apostle Paul might be crazy, but I don't think he's wrong. How can we use your season of singleness for the Lord's purposes and for your delight? There's
Mm-hmm.
delight in serving him. So, yeah, that's what I would say to the church. The single
Mm-hmm.
Christian does not need to be fixed. They need to be
Mm.
unleashed.
That's good. I had a point, but I'm just gonna leave it with that. Yeah. Thank you for joining me on this episode. It was a pleasure. And oh, where can everybody find you if they want to get the book or follow you on social media?
Yeah, if we can, I'd love to just give away the audiobook. I know you started listening to it, and I'll just give it to your audience. So could we add
Awesome.
that to the like a link in the show notes to just
Yes.
be super easy there? Okay.
Yeah.
So also within the audiobook, I kind of created like a fun Easter egg type thing to where I'll actually give you a signed copy of the book completely free. So if you've heard enough on this podcast, you're like, yeah, I want the audiobook. Just go ahead and download that. And then there's going to be ways as well to get a free signed copy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to connect with me on social, it's just at Bob Wheatley or go to my website, bobwheatley.com.
Awesome. Okay. Well, until next time, Epiphany Tribe, I'll catch you later.